Welcome back to The Explainer. We're going to do something really fascinating today. We are literally popping the hood on modern political rhetoric to see exactly how it runs. We're going to do an objective, piece-by-piece deconstruction of a highly partisan Fox News interview with Texas Representative Brandon Gill. Now, to be clear, we are absolutely not here to take sides. Instead, we're going to look at the raw anatomy of his argument, just completely break it down, to understand how political framing works in real-time media. And the whole thing really kicks off with one incredibly provocative question. Who is actually entitled to American citizenship? I mean, this is the high-stakes policy debate that anchors the entire first half of the interview we're looking at today. It's a question that hits right at the core of national identity, the law, and our borders. By putting this question front and center, the interview is basically signaling to the viewer right out of the gate, hey, we are dealing with existential, make-or-break national issues here.
So, how are we going to break this down? Well, we've got four main themes to get through. 1. The citizenship policy debate. 2. Defining birth tourism. 3. Contrasting state political rhetoric. And 4. Promoting American exceptionalism.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the citizenship policy debate.
Right away, the host sets the stage by bringing up a pending Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship. And to really validate the upcoming argument, the host cites Fox News polling showing that most voters oppose automatic U.S. citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants. From a purely neutral standpoint, throwing polling data up right at the top, that's a classic rhetorical technique. It instantly establishes a baseline of agreement with the audience. It essentially tells the viewer, look, most people already agree with the premise we're about to discuss. And honestly, that perfectly tees up Representative Gill to make his case for changing those birthright citizenship rules.
Building off that baseline, Representative Gill starts constructing his legal and historical framework. He doesn't just say, I dislike the current rules. Instead, he points straight to historical precedents. He actually lists out three very specific groups that have historically been accepted from birthright citizenship: the children of an invading army, Native Americans maintaining tribal relationships, and the children of diplomats. By citing these exact exceptions, he's building a logical, precedent-based structure to argue against granting citizenship to the children of undocumented immigrants. He's essentially arguing that the current system is an anomaly that really needs correcting.
Moving right along, let's look at Section 2, defining birth tourism.
Now, having laid down that legal groundwork, the congressman shifts over to specific terminology. And, the words we use in politics absolutely matter. This section is honestly a masterclass in strategic labeling. Notice how birth tourism is defined strictly through the lens of his argument. According to Representative Gill, this is the practice of foreign nationals traveling to the U.S. with the sole purpose of securing citizenship for their children to bypass laws. He also explicitly drops the term anchor babies to describe what's happening. By defining the issue this way, he frames the whole thing not as desperate migration, but as a calculated, very deliberate exploitation of American legal loopholes. So the crucial piece here is who he actually points to as participating in this. Representative Gill specifically calls out two distinct demographics: folks traversing South America and Chinese nationals who he says are flying in for this exact purpose, and he claims this is happening by the thousands upon thousands. Now, think about that framing for a second. By linking a geopolitical rival like China and mass migration from South America to this practice, he's taking the argument and elevating it. It goes from a simple border management issue to this profound national security and demographic threat. He's literally claiming it to fundamentally change the politics of the entire nation.
And that brings us to a real crescendo in his argument. Representative Gill drops this line: the Constitution is not a suicide pact for the American people. Wow. That is some incredibly strong, vivid rhetorical imagery, right? By using that phrase, suicide pact, he is emotionally illustrating exactly how high he believes the stakes are here. He's arguing that sticking to the current interpretation of birthright citizenship is going to lead to the nation's destruction. It firmly positions his stance as one of necessary law and order, and really, just pure national survival.
Okay, on to Section 3, contrasting state political rhetoric.
Now, about halfway through this segment, we get some serious rhetorical whiplash. We go from solemn constitutional law to colorful local political combat. In response to a fiery clip of a Texas Democrat speaking at a rally, Representative Gill characterizes the opposition's base as transgender tofu-eating vegans. It's this bizarre, completely abrupt pivot into name-calling. Because, nothing says constitutional crisis quite like tofu, right? But rhetorically, it serves a highly specific purpose. He is taking the energy of that Democratic rally and trying to marginalize it. He's painting it with these extreme, highly specific cultural stereotypes that he absolutely knows will feel alien to his conservative viewership. And this maps out the exact anatomy of a political attack.
Just look at the stark contrast being drawn here. On the left side, Democrats are framed as extremist, totally out of touch and genuinely bizarre. But on the right side, conservatives, and really Texans by extension, are positioned as the ones representing common sense, decency, and the preservation of culture. By placing these two carefully manufactured extremes side by side, he leaves his audience feeling like there's really only one logical, culturally safe choice they can make.
Finally, we hit Section 4, Promoting American Exceptionalism.
So after leaning heavily into the fear of border insecurity and mocking his political opponents, the segment naturally needs an uplifting resolution. The host strategically pivots the conversation over to visuals from the Great American State Fair Texas booth. Specifically, they talk about a replica space capsule and the Alamo. And these aren't just random objects, they are potent symbols. The space capsule represents American innovation, triumph, and constantly looking to the future. The Alamo, that represents sacrifice, Texas heritage, and defending borders. Bringing up this nostalgic, patriotic imagery just seamlessly transitions the conversation toward wholesome family values.
Then, when the host asks him about raising young kids in America today, Representative Gill anchors his answer entirely in that concept of American exceptionalism. He literally states that he teaches his children that America is the greatest civilization that has ever been created. This is the ultimate wrap-up of his entire rhetorical strategy. Those earlier arguments about restricting citizenship and rejecting democratic policies, they are now fully framed not as exclusionary, but as this noble, patriotic duty to conserve the freedoms and dignity of the greatest civilization for the very next generation.
So as we wrap up, I really want to leave you with a question to chew on. How does the framing of these issues, from immigration all the way down to local values, actually shape the broader American political landscape? Today, we didn't just listen to an interview, right? We completely dissected the anatomy of a persuasive strategy. We saw exactly how historical precedents, calculated terminology, stark political contrasting, and deep-seated patriotism are all intentionally woven together to steer public opinion. So the next time you watch a political segment, honestly, regardless of the network or the party, I challenge you to look past the talking points and really look at the structure. Ask yourself, what is the true anatomy of their argument? Keep learning, keep analyzing, and I'll catch you in our next explainer.